The WNBA All-Star Weekend happened here in Indianapolis. They're calling it in Miami.
Ooh,
They're saying it was Miami in Indianapolis.
Caitlin Clark's injury didn't just take her out of the All-Star game. It torpedoed the entire weekend. Empty seats, furious fans, ticket prices collapsing live on social media.
Today, last night, the All-Star ticket prices have been cut by quite a lot. They have been cut by quite a lot, and I think it is a bit of a problem.
What should have been a historic celebration in her hometown turned into the WNBA's worst nightmare. So how did this happen? And what did Kathy Engelbert finally say when fans demanded accountability? Let's break it down.
Of course, the story we have been following throughout the past 2 days surrounds the superstar herself, Caitlin Clark, the WNBA star, the Indiana Fever star, Caitlin Clark. She's going to miss all the action on the court, but she still will be a part of the festivities taking place this weekend.
Indianapolis was supposed to host the most iconic All-Star weekend in WNBA history. A 34-story mural of Caitlin Clark towered over the skyline.
Folks, when you come to Indianapolis, look, this is what everybody's been talking about. This right here, Caitlin Clark, the banner right there on the JW Marriott. It is 34 stories banner, unbelievable. It's the largest banner ever on the JW Marriott. You may think about the bracket. Remember back in the NCAA tournament back in 2021? Yeah, it's bigger than that as well. 113,000 square feet. It is unbelievable. And you see what it says from downtown in my town. No doubt, this is something that is grabbing everyone's attention. And who else better to be on that than the star herself, Caitlin Clark.
Local businesses bulked up on inventory. Restaurants hired extra staff. And ticket prices soared, with average resale hitting $262 and the best seats going for thousands.
Caitlin Clark gets hurt, and guess what? Your demand vanishes because people ain't going to pay up to see these athletes that are ungrateful that their sport's growing. People aren't paying up for that. And we are here, right here. The tickets for this game, for this All-Star game, they've dropped by 50%. The ticket prices. The demand fell off a cliff. And it's not just the on-court product that suffers without number 22, Caitlin Clark. The entire weekend's economic opportunities have felt the fallout. This was conveyed with a July 18th post from NBA Central that wrote, quote, "The get-in price for the WNBA All-Star Game in Indianapolis has dropped 48%.
This was supposed to be her coronation. Instead, it turned into a financial disaster. The collapse began the moment Caitlin's groin injury was announced. On July 17th, the news hit social media, and within hours, ticket prices were in free fall. What once sold for $262? Now just $64.
Let's get into it. The get-in price for the WNBA All-Star Game in Indianapolis has dropped 48%. From $121 all the way down to just $64 after news broke that Caitlin Clark won't be playing. These are people saying, I'm done. I don't want to watch. Caitlin Clark's not. I bought tickets solely to watch Caitlin Clark in the All-Star Game. I made accommodations solely to get to Indiana to watch Caitlin Clark in the All-Star Game. She is injured. I have no interest in that anymore. People are selling their tickets so much so they just want off of them. And they're seeing firsthand what Caitlin Clark is worth to this league, especially to the All-Star Game.
Buyers disappeared. Sellers panicked. People who had bought tickets just to see Clark were trying to offload them for pennies. And still, nobody wanted in. The get-in price dropped from $121 to just $65. Yet even at that rock-bottom number, fans said, no Caitlin, no thanks.
Now, tickets were already sold up. As far as the venue's concerned, they already sold all 17,000 or however many tickets they had. But when it comes to the vendors in the arena, the shops in the arena, they're not going to have the same amount of people patronize their business as they would if Caitlin Clark was there. The surrounding restaurants, the surrounding areas, the surrounding attractions. They're not going to have the same number of people patronize their business as they would if Caitlin Clark was healthy.
The arena, Gainbridge Fieldhouse, had sold out every Fever game this season. Now, for the first time in 2 years, it faced empty seats. The vendors, massive losses, hotels, cancellations, merchandise, unsold. But this wasn't just about money. This was a message, loud and clear. Without Caitlin Clark, there is no WNBA buzz.
Once it was announced that Caitlin Clark would be missing the festivities, once it was announced that the only star would be skipping the All-Star game, ticket prices immediately fell into the pooper, and they have been circling the drain ever since, trying desperately not to be flushed. As of this morning, you can witness anonymous players attempting to make layups for less than $70.
It wasn't the first time this had happened either. Back in May, when she missed regular season games with a quad strain, prices tanked again. A Washington game dropped 47%, the Chicago game down 71%. But this time, it was the All-Star game in her hometown, and the crash was unprecedented. The truth is, Clark's injury was predictable. She didn't tweak something in practice. She was worn down game after game by opponents who knew the refs wouldn't protect her.
That is because of the refereeing in regards to Caitlin Clark being targeted and pretty much not having a special whistle. And in any other sport, most superstar players get that whistle. Unfortunately, Caitlin Clark has not been handed that whistle. And we even had Stephanie White on record basically saying that whenever you play against Caitlin Clark, there is an alternate whistle.
What is your description of kind of the physical battle that Caitlin particularly faces, maybe within tonight's game or just in general as you've gotten used to coaching, or just what you see she's enduring physically?
Are you trying to get me fined again?
I am not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a level of physicality that they're able to play with against her. You know, I knew it as an opponent.
She's been on the receiving end of 20% of all flagrant fouls in the league this year. That's one player taking nearly a quarter of the league's most violent hits. And the officiating. Absolutely silent, Stephanie White, her own coach, saw it coming. She warned that Clark was being played more physically than anyone else in the league, and that referees were doing nothing. Even WNBA legends like Lisa Leslie said it out loud. Groin injuries linger. She had one in 2006, and she still feels it to this day. It's an injury that never fully heals. It just gets managed.
I really feel for Caitlin Clark because I actually had that injury 2006, and listen, I was heavily taped around my thigh, around my glute, just trying to make sure there was enough pressure to hold that groin. And the hard part is that the groin is sort of an area that you can't just touch and go, oh, it hurts right here. You feel it deep. You have to get a lot of deep treatment, whether it's ice and heat and rest. Well, Caitlin Clark, she can't find a lot of rest right now because she's mid-season. But I think that injury is really tough because it lingers. No matter how much medicine you take, you can feel fine. You get back out there, one move, one change of direction, and boom, you're right back feeling that same type of pain. So it's going to be a tough injury that she's going to have to manage.
Poorly, in this case. The stats back it all up. According to the Washington Post, there have been 57 head and neck injuries in the WNBA over the past 2.5 seasons. Most of them guards and small forwards. Just like Clark, just like Sophie Cunningham, just like Aaliyah Boston. So when Clark finally went down, it wasn't a shock. It was a slow-motion car crash everyone saw coming. And then came the silence, with fans boycotting, vendors taking losses, and the ticket market in flames. All eyes turned to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. Would she admit the officiating had failed?
Because the referees is not going to call shit on Caitlin or nothing on you for hurting Caitlin. Because I believe there's a system set in place by Kathy to allow Caitlin Clark to get attacked. Now, this information is alleged. This is just my theory, but I'm telling you right now, this is a hell of a theory because I believe Kathy has a systematic placement for Caitlin Clark to get hurt. She said it last year. They need the drama for clicks. Guys, what sells more than anything? Drama. But they're not looking at the longevity of this. Caitlin Clark getting hurt. Caitlin Clark lose her fan base and lose all the hype. Guess what? The league will sink.
Would she promise to protect the league's biggest star? Instead, she gave the same corporate word salad fans have come to expect. She mentioned shared goals, constructive meetings, and team profitability. But not one word about protecting players, not one word about Clark. And that disconnect was deafening. While fans begged for real answers, Engelbert talked like everything was normal. Meanwhile, the All-Star game was collapsing in front of everyone. It wasn't just the empty seats, it was the energy. Flat, boring, lifeless. The game itself was an embarrassment. Players jacking up deep threes, no defense, no competition, just a glorified layup line. One fan called it a mockery of the sport. The biggest buzz of the weekend. Not the game, not the stars, not the league. It was a mascot. The New York Liberty mascot was spotted trying to recruit Caitlin Clark during All-Star Weekend, and that moment got more attention than the actual basketball.
The New York Liberty sent their mascot in. The New York Liberty sent their mascot to try and recruit Caitlin Clark. We've never seen that before. I don't think we have ever seen that before. I don't think we've ever seen that before. We have never seen a mascot be sent in. They are pushing hard. They are doing everything they can. It's like, you know what? It's going to be a bit obvious if we start sending our players around her.
Because the Liberty, unlike the league, seemed to understand Clark's value. This All-Star Weekend was a brutal reminder. Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA has no spotlight, no buzz, no sales, no momentum. And here's the painful truth. The league had everything. A generational star, record viewership, national attention, millions in new revenue. But instead of protecting her, they let the refs ignore every shove, every hit, every flagrant foul, until her body gave out. The result? An all-star game that became a punchline, a fan base that organized boycotts, and leadership too, afraid to speak the truth. So the question now is simple. Did the WNBA just blow its biggest opportunity ever? Or will they finally learn to protect the players and fans, keeping this league alive? If you think the WNBA can bounce back from this, drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're tired of seeing Caitlin Clark get disrespected, hit that like button. Subscribe for more hard truths, and we'll see you in the next one.
Women's basketball, women's sports really, but women's basketball has been on the rise. And it's kind of like what Magic and Bird was to men's basketball. Like this moment, we kind of needed something.
This is
to
that
just
moment.
and Caitlin's that moment. And I think a lot of it has to do with her logo 3.
Sue Bird just did what no one else dared to do. She exposed the WNBA's plan to silence Caitlin Clark.
And in my experience, that is the rule.
Yeah.
That's not the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
And it feels like the narratives that have gotten formed in our league, it's like the exception to the rule gets spun as if it's the rule.
Yeah.
It's like the small little thing that happens gets taken as if it's always happening, right?
Yeah.
Like one person might not like somebody, now the whole league doesn't like somebody.
Yeah.
You know, you get it.
Yeah.
So I love that you said that, mainly because that has been my experience.
Imagine being so good that the league you saved turns against you. Clark isn't just a star, she's a phenomenon. The reason ratings are up, tickets are sold out, and the WNBA is finally in the headlines.
You know, I got to watch Caitlin play in person. It'd be really beneficial to her if she had players around her who could create shots for her, right? She has to create a lot of her own shots, but she's also creating for her teammates. And there are times where if she could just get some open looks off other people's play, it could be really beneficial to her. And that's where Ari McDonald might have some impact. You know, I got to watch Caitlin through. I said this to multiple owners. I said this in competition meetings. I never understood why in a 40-minute basketball game, we got 6 personal fouls. And a lot of times I was met with, well, we don't want our star players fouling out.
And yet the league told networks to limit her airtime. You heard that right. The WNBA is trying to hide the very player who's saving it. Let's start with the moment that blew everything wide open. Sue Bird, 4-time WNBA champion, Olympic gold medalist, and one of the most respected voices in the sport, dropped a bombshell on her Bird's Eye View podcast.
Now, shout out to Mike on Twitter. He said Sue Bird should replace Kathy Engelbert as WNBA commissioner. She played in the league. She knows business and is widely respected. I know she's part owner, and that will need to be worked out. But Sue Bird on the physicality of the WNBA. Listen to this, guys.
I just want to talk a little bit about the physicality of the league. There's so much conversation about it. Is it too physical? Is it not? All these things. And I think there's been this narrative that's gone around that we, and I'm going to include myself here, we as WNBA players talk about the physicality in our league with like a badge of honor, right?
Instead of just praising Caitlin Clark for setting records and bringing in millions of new fans, Sue went deeper. She revealed something disturbing. The WNBA's own PR teams were quietly working to downplay Clark's success.
Just to give a little bit of context, the 6 fouls is definitely like not a hangover, but we got it from the NBA game, right? But they play 48 minutes, so it makes sense. We play with 5 fouls overseas. We play with 5 fouls in college. We play with 5 fouls in national team play with USA Basketball. So this isn't 5 fouls in 40 minutes. This isn't something new. And like I said, I was always met with, well, we don't want our star players fouling out. But by my math, by giving every player on a roster that 1 extra personal foul, you're allowing your best player to get fouled.
According to Sue, actual league memos were sent out to media partners instructing them to limit Caitlin's segments and instead focus on league-wide storylines. Let that sink in. Why would a league experiencing its biggest surge in popularity because of one rookie try to dim her light? Sue compared it to her own rookie year.
And I don't think that's the case at all. I personally don't feel that way. But when challenged about the physicality of the league and the historical physicality of the league, yes, we say, yes, this is a physical league. Like, yeah, it's a grown woman's league. Like, yeah, you got to be ready for it. And the only reason why I want to bring that up is because while it's true that we have defended the physicality, it's not true that it's because we want it to be that way or like it that way. I think for a really long time, it's something we've talked about. But when the refs do ref the game and allow physicality, we're kind of just playing in it.
Where veterans lifted her up, not held her back. And the way she said it, you could hear the frustration. This wasn't bitterness, it was disappointment. And when someone like Sue Bird speaks out, you know it's not just noise, it's a warning. But that was only the beginning. Sue also talked about a behind-the-scenes meeting where a senior league executive actually asked, "Can we use the race angle to boost mid-season ratings?" That's not just bad PR. That's dangerous. Instead of celebrating Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese for their undeniable talent, the league reportedly tried to spin a narrative, a black versus white storyline. Grit versus grace, ice versus grit. Yes, those were actual phrases from a memo titled Racial Arc Storyline Tactics. It was packaged as entertainment, but it was exploitation. Neither Clark nor Reese wanted this. Reese publicly said, "I'm here to play basketball, not be a prop." Clark said, "We're athletes first." But the league, they let it happen anyway. And the media, they ran with it. So who exactly benefits from this narrative? Certainly not the players. And definitely not the fans who came to see basketball, not a soap opera. Then came the technical fouls. May 18th, Clark taps the backboard in frustration and gets hit with a tech.
Switch things up. They are doing a much better job. You see the congestion, making it hard for Jewel to be the impetus or the engine for Seattle today. That is a major improvement from Indiana's defense.
The first 3 minutes standing, staying with her, preventing her from getting those touches.
And Caitlin Clark gets hit with a technical.
Meanwhile, Diana Taurasi screams at a ref and throws her jacket across the floor. No tech, just a warning. How does that make sense? Fans noticed. Social media exploded with side-by-side clips showing the double standard. Then a leak revealed something even worse. On May 10th, referees reportedly received a memo that rookies like Clark should be monitored for unsportsmanlike conduct. Translation: ref her harder, target her. Caitlin Clark is 22 years old, carrying the weight of an entire league. And every time she shows even a sliver of passion, she gets punished for it. That's not leadership, that's suppression. And if this is how they treat Clark, someone with massive public support and media attention, what's happening to rookies we don't hear about? Let's talk about Clark's fan base. She's filling arenas, signing autographs for hours, inspiring kids all across the country. She brought in new energy, new money, new viewers. Yet somehow, the league decided her fans were the problem. Some trolls online crossed the line. Sure, But what fan base doesn't have a few bad apples? Instead of addressing racism or hate speech, the WNBA's advice was to stay off social media. That's not a solution, that's avoidance. Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe weren't having it. On their podcast, Rapinoe said, "You can't wish racism away, you confront it." Sue added, "The WNBA has always been about community, so why are we ghosting that community now?" Meanwhile, Caitlyn just kept showing up, signing autographs, smiling, playing. She didn't complain, she didn't feed the drama, she just showed up. Now let's talk about the money. On April 20th, the WNBA signed a 10-year, $2 billion deal with ESPN and Amazon. That's nearly triple their last deal. You want to know why that happened? 2 words, Caitlin Clark. She's the reason ticket sales jumped 85%. She's the reason ratings are up 240%. She's the reason jersey sales exploded to $25 million. She's not just a player, she's a brand, a movement, the face of a generation. And what did the league do? They held her back. A leaked document titled Safe versus Star Power laid it out. Option A, go all in on Caitlyn. Option B, mix in rivalries, drama, and balance the exposure. They chose B. Why? Because they were scared of making it too much about her. But here's the thing, you don't dim LeBron, you don't downplay Serena, you build around them. So why is the WNBA so afraid of its own success? Instead of celebrating Clark's brilliance, the league chose controversy. Every hard foul, viral, every tech, headline, every scuffle, a media circus. But her game-winning shots? Her rookie records? Her flawless leadership? Barely a whisper. And fans are noticing. A recent poll showed that 42% of WNBA season ticket holders believe the league is using manufactured controversy to sell tickets. Even sponsors are pulling back. Some delayed Caitlyn-focused ad campaigns just to avoid the mess. Imagine that, the biggest rookie in years, sidelined by spin. But here's where it gets real. A leaked audio recording from a May 15th executive meeting captured the tension. One exec said, "She's our cash cow. We can't hide her." Another fired back, "Clicks from conflict don't build long-term fans." It's clear, the league is divided. Some want to celebrate her, others want to manage her. But Sue Bird, she's not managing anything. She's telling the truth. And that truth, Caitlin Clark isn't the problem, she's the blueprint. She's the reason the WNBA is in living rooms across America. And the more the league tries to spin her into a drama character, the more they lose the very thing they've been fighting for: respect. Sue Bird didn't have to speak up. She's got her rings, her legacy, her peace, but she chose to speak because this moment is bigger than basketball. It's about who gets to shine, who gets celebrated, and who gets silenced. So now the question is simple. Do we want a league that hides its brightest stars, or one that lifts them up? Because Caitlin Clark isn't asking for special treatment. She's just asking for fairness. And it's time we all demand the same. If you believe that the WNBA needs to hear this loud and clear, drop a comment, share this video, and subscribe. Because this is about more than one player. This is about what kind of league we're going to build.